Hi everybody, my name is Luis Vargas, and this occasion I'm going to talk about dependency injection providers. What I'm going to do is just continue talking about dependency injection, and in fact I'm going to talk about providers specifically. So basically, the previous video we saw that how to create a hero service, but in this video we are going to see how to use providers and how to provide hero services. In the previous video, we saw that we provide hero services when in the application, or not zero in the hero component, we provide a hero service using the providers option into the add component, to the annotation component. So this is the way to use providers. Basically, this is one way in for every component. And there is also another way that is using the same provider. Instead of using it in here, I'm just going to remove it from here, and we can also use it into the main application, into the main.dart file, and we can put it here. We can optimize right now, so we can put it here in here as a list of providers. So we can add our provider, our hero service, as a provider. So this is not a good practice, because hero service is gonna be available for all the components, and most of the time we don't want a service to be available for all components. So that's why we only want hero service. In this case, hero service should only be available for hero component.dart and also for hero list component. Yeah, can optimize this. Optimize. So we don't want we want the hero list component to have access to the hero service, and also the hero component to have access, but other components we don't want to give access to the hero component, sorry, to the hero service. So it's good, and the application should work. Let's run it to see it working. What it is, index, right click and run index.html to see if it's gonna work or not. And as you can see, we can see the list of heroes in here, so that means the hero service is working. So as I told before, it's not the best practice. You can leave it there. However, there is no way to know which component used which service, and also this service in specific is mostly for business manipulation, business data manipulation. It's not for application manipulation. So in here we should only put these services, we should only provide services. I'm just gonna do Ctrl P to list to see the parameters that expect Bootstrap, and inspect two parameters, the app component type and the providers, the list of providers. So in here we shouldn't put the business logic providers, we should only put the application providers. Like which ones? For example, an application provider that could be put in this place could be the HTTP, or also the JSON. Maybe you have a service for JSON, or maybe a service for HTTP, a service for what's the name, JSON-P, sorry. JSON-P also could be those two could be providers, because in general we're gonna use those two for the entire application. It's not only for one component. Maybe it could be only for one component, but in most of the cases it's not. It's for the entire application. Also Also, we saw that, for example, in the server application, in our binary application, we saw that we did the resolve and create, and we put the providers into the resolve and create. This is the equivalent in server applications to do Bootstrap. I don't know if there is a Bootstrap for servers right now. I should look for that. If it, I think it should be a Bootstrap also, but I'm not completely sure. And still, this is changing. So, in previous video, you saw that I need to add the reflection capabilities, and also this wasn't called reflective injector, it was called just injector. But as I said before, this is changing. This is beta 17 right now. Let's talk more about providers. So let's create another service. In this case, it's gonna be a service called what is the main Dart? Okay. So let's go to the app component, and let's go to the hero component, and in this one it should have the hero service. Let's run the game before continuing. Yes, it works. Perfect. Okay, so let's add another service. In this case, it's gonna be the logger service. And let's put it in here into the lead folder. Let's create a new file, and in this case it's gonna be called logger service.dat. What is gonna contain this logger service? This logger service is gonna be a little bit simple, and it's just gonna contain a log method and logs list, and it's gonna be also an injectable. So I'm gonna copy everything from another file, so that I don't need to. So basically what I need is just this logger class that is marked with the @injectable. Remember that this @injectable is used by the browser, not by the browser, by the pre-compiler. I don't know if I should call pre-compiler. Let's call preprocessor, Angular preprocessor, so that it knows that which class should be treated as injectable. Server-side application doesn't need injectable, only client-side application, only browsers applications. For example, if we go to the car class, we see that we didn't put any injectable in here, even though we use it as injectable in the car bar injector. And this is because the reflective injector doesn't need a preprocessor and doesn't need the annotations. That doesn't mean that it's not gonna be, it's not okay to put it. The best option is always put the injectable. So we were into the logger service. Let's close the others. So this logger service, what I'm gonna do is just gonna inject it into the hero service. So yes, into the hero service. So the hero service right now is gonna have a logger. So let's inject it into the hero service. Let's open the hero service, and let's inject a new hero service. Remember to inject a component or another injectable in Angular2. In Angular2 Dart, we only need to use the constructor. So hero service constructor, and into the constructor we need to pass what we want to inject. In this case, it's gonna be a logger, and it's gonna be called logger. And then we just need to close with a semicolon, I think, and for this library. So we also need that this logger should be available for all the component, all the class. So let's do it as a final logger. Let's copy this. And we create a global class, a private logger that is global for this class only. And we say in this dot logger. and this way we are injecting the logger. This expression, this dot logger into the constructor parameter, it's something special from Dart. This is the same as, for those who don't know, it's the same as saying this logger, and then inside the constructor saying this dot logger equal logger. This is equivalent into, this is the Java way to do it. I obviously prefer the Dart way, but it's a lot shorter. We only need to add this dot logger. I don't know, it's up to you if you want to use it or do it in the long way, but this is the recommended way. Anyway, so what we're gonna do right now, we're just gonna say it, instead of returning directly, I'm just gonna convert this into a body way, what's the name, into body block body, sorry. For doing this, I just did add enter, and then it gets converted into a body block, which is longer, but this allows me to put some stuff inside also. So I'm gonna put the logger, and I'm gonna say log, and then I'm gonna say getting heroes. Why I don't just do a print? So in here we're gonna see the big advantage of using dependency injection. Why I don't just use a print? Because in this case, for production, I don't want to print this. I want to print this only for maybe development. So maybe the logger, instead of just having log, could have debug, could have info, could have some other stuff. But in this case, this one only have log, this log method. But in other cases, it also have the logger, the log, info, debug. I don't remember the others one. Okay, so right now, if I run this application, it's gonna fail. It should fail. Let's see, print message. In here there is a print, so if right now I run the application, it should fail. As you can see, the list is not being printed, and we can see it in the console. We can press F12 to see the console, and we can see the error in the console. However, there is a better way of doing this, and is using IntelliJ. I can also click on debug, and it shows me the console into the IDE. It's basically both of them shows the same error. It's not a difference. There is no difference from both of them. It should be the same. So there is no constructor hero service with matching argument declared into the hero service. So there is something wrong into the hero service. That's what it's saying. So path name method hero service. It doesn't say anything special, but what I noticed that the logger, when we try to inject a logger, hero service here, there is no provider for this logger. So the hero component right now, we see the provider for hero service. So we are gonna add a new provider. In this case, the provider is gonna be the class logger. We do alt enter to import the library. We close this. Let's see, logger service. Yes, this is the one that we want. So stop and run again. And right now we see the list, but we don't see. We see this message getting heroes from the hero service. So what happened in here? A provider. What is the provider here? When we put only the class, is the same as putting this cons provider logger use class logger. Is the same using this or using the other short way. So this is the same, so it should choose always the same message as before. Oops. And as you can see, the list is showed and also the message is shown at the bottom. So basically it's the same. There is other two, that is the use value and use existing. We're gonna do the first and also use factor. Let's do the use value. Oops. So when we use value, we can just pass the class, and let's run it again and to see there is going to be an error. And there is the error, the dependency injection, the type is not a subtype of logger. So what's happening here? We are using a value, so we need to pass a value. In general, when we use value, we need to pass something like new logger. However, we cannot do that in here in this provider because we are inside an annotation. An annotation, if you go to the declaration, control click, you see the annotation is a constant. The component is a constant. In that, all annotations are constants. This is different from TypeScript or JavaScript, that annotations are not constants. So we cannot pass a new because new is a variable and it expects a constant. Constants only can only expect constants. So what can we do? First open, as I said before, we can put this provider in a different place. We can put this provider in here into the hero, into the main Dart. And we can say providers, and we can pass a list, and we can say const provider logger, and this should work. So instead of passing a const, we should use a new. I think that no, sorry, instead of using a new provider, we should use a provide function. However, I don't remember where is it being import library. I think yes, the core one. So this should be the new way or the correct way. What is the error here? It needs another parenthesis. Okay, so this is the correct way of using it. I think we can also use const provider or const provider, but we still have the other error, so maybe we can also use the new provider. Yes, we can use the new provider, and we are creating a new provider. And also we can use a shortcut that should be that is the function provide. So this is shorter and this is good. This is still good. We're using the value new logger. Okay, so this is a little bit not good. Not good. It's good because we're using the same logger, but let's create another implementation of logger. And in this case, it's gonna be a logger that doesn't print anything into the console. Right now, it should run and it should cancel. It should show in the console. It should do the same in the console. No, doesn't. It looks like something doesn't like it. Let's see debug there. Oh, we have error here. That's why in parentheses. Okay, so here is the list and here is the message. Let's create another logger service, another implementation where we don't want to show the logs. We are gonna call it log nothing or something similar. Let me see what's the name. Let me look for it. I don't remember what it is. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is just create a new logger, and in this case I'm gonna create the logger in here right after the main. It's not good practice again doing this in this place. It's not good. It's not always good practice doing it here. But just for educational purpose, you can do it here. So let's create a new class, and this class is gonna be the do nothing logger, and this class should extend the logger. We can use any of those extends or implements. The difference is that implements in this case shows us this error that says missing concrete implementation of the methods. So this is good because we can just do this, Alt enter, and we can create the two missing overrides, and it's faster. I don't need to do anything, although IntelliJ also offers us the way to extend this. When we extend, we don't need to pass any method, and by default the do nothing logger is using the method from logger, so it's using those two methods, and attributes. So I could only let me see something. Yeah, I could only need to override the log method. I don't need to override both of them. So I could do Control O in IntelliJ to open this dialog box that says what method do I want to override. So I want to override this method, the log, and it's not too difficult to use. So it's up to you if you want to do implements or extends. Most of the time we use extend because it's shorter. We don't need to also add the log list. So what I'm gonna do in here, let's see the logger. So the log does two things: logs and add the message to the logs, and also print the message. In this case, I only want to log the message. I don't want to print, so I'm just gonna copy this line. Oops. And this is gonna be done for the do nothing logger. So instead of using the normal logger, the normal class logger, I'm gonna use the do nothing logger. So I'm gonna do nothing logger. So running this shouldn't show me this message. So let's debug it and run it. and there is the list and the message is not being showed. So that's what I want, and it is okay. So still I can use using the provider. I can still use, instead of use value, I can still use class, and I can still do the do nothing logger, and it still should work. Oh, it doesn't work. Okay, so here is the error. The do nothing logger doesn't have any information. What happens here? So the do nothing logger doesn't have the add injectable. So another tip for adding, when we should add injectable, is that, and when we should use the use value. If there is any external class and we cannot modify that external class and we cannot add the add injectable, so we use value instead of using use class. So stop and running again, should works. Remember, add injectable is mostly when you developing in client-side applications, and also when you don't use the use value or use factory. What is the other one? If you use existing and is the existing uses use value, you can still avoid the add injectable. But as I said before, the best practice is always add the add injectable, and also add those two parentheses. So we use a class, and right now let's use another one, and in this case let's use use factory. So what is a factory? What does a factory? We can go to the use factory source code, and I love this from Dart, because in TypeScript you cannot go directly to the source code. It sends you to a definition file, which is horrible most of the cases. And although in this case it's a little bit difficult because there is no documentation in here, so it's a C provider for more details. Let's go to provider for more details, and let's go to use class, use value, and there is the documentation. I think this documentation should be copied. C provider for my details, but it doesn't say me, so okay, so let's see the documentation. Control Q. Let's make it a little bit bigger. And here's the documentation. It says that binds a dependency injection token to a value. Simple. So JavaScript injector resolve and create, and okay, so use value can also be used for sending non-classes values, like in this case sending a string. So let's do that later, or continuation. No, let's talk about what is the one next one. The next one should be the use factory. Oops, sorry, the use factory, not the use value. I was talking about use value. Okay, so the use value, what does it expect? Let's go to the use value. That's rare. It's expect, all of them expect dynamic. This is wrong, because most likely this is generated. So let's go to provider and let's go to use factory. So use factory, what it expect? Use factory binds a dependency injection token to a function. This is what we are interested in. It binds to a function. So let's go to the function, to the main.dart, and instead of adding the class, in this case, we need a function. function. Of course, in that we don't write the function. We do it like this. Let's put this in the new line. Let's make this a little bit smaller. So new logger, and this is the use factory. Factory, as the name says, is a factory. Factory creates something, so factory 2 returns an object, something that it's being created. That's why it's called factory. In this case, it returns a new object. It is longer than the previous one, but how can I say this? But it's for mostly for, as I said before, when you have external classes and those external classes doesn't have the add injectable and you cannot add it, you can use the use factory. Although most of the time those classes should have this add injectable. I'm not completely sure how to be used, but this is the use case. Use factory should expect a function. In JavaScript, of course, you will write function space, but in Dart this is not the way. So you write this is a lambda function, and you do the same. It's a little bit longer, but it still is it's still useful. So stop and run it again. It should works. Closure. Okay, so the closure is not, doesn't have. Let's see what happens if we have the add injectable. Yeah, it's horrible. So we cannot have this in here. Let's put it outside here. Let's put it into here. I think this is being caused because of the name. Do nothing logger. I'm just gonna call it do nothing logger factory. And then I'm just gonna use it here, do nothing logger factory. Let's see now if it works. I still cannot find. So we really need, when there is something about reflection, is because most likely we have forgotten the annotation add injectable. So let's see if now it works. Hopefully it works now. And yes, it works. So as I said before, we are using a factory, and this factory we are using the do nothing logger factory. We can also use another factory, add injectable. Yes, we can use another add injectable, and in this case I'm just going to create another factory, another function, another closure, also been called, that is going to be logger factory, and this one is going to return us a new logger. So instead of using the do nothing, just use the logger factory. And let's run it again, Control F5. And here we go. And right now we have the login, the log, getting heroes. So let's do something a little bit different. Let's not use, we have the, we can also have another another provider. Let's pass values, and factories. Okay, so before continuing, in this moment we use logger factory. So one way to using to passing values into the providers into the annotation is using factories. So in this case, we can put this code into the. I'm just gonna remove from here. Okay, so let's go to the hero component and let's add the same code at the bottom here. This set injectable and this. So we can also have the providers in here. So we can set use the new logger, use the value. So we choose a cons provider. And in this case it's gonna be the logger and it's gonna be the new use value, use factory, and we can use the new do nothing value. Oops, sorry for that. Okay, so this is the way of passing a value into a logger, into a provider inside an annotation. This is the only way right now because Angular that doesn't support passing non-constant values in here. However, we could pass a constant value if the value, for example, use value and the value is a string, and that's a string. This is a constant value and we could pass it here. However, for a non-constant value, like in this case that is a new value, we should pass it using a factory. So right now I shouldn't print anything. Let's stop and run again, and it doesn't print anything into the console. And let's use right now the logger factory. Stop and run again, and it prints the list and it prints getting heroes in the console. So this is cool because right now if we have 100 places we use where we use the logger factory, the logger, we only need to modify one place where it was provided, and which will only say that instead of using the normal logger, we should use right now in this case logger factory, and then the new logger or the do nothing logger. So let's add another provider in this case. We can also use another function, another parameter for the constant providers, that is the use existing. So if I do this right now, use existing, and I should pass the type, and in this case it's gonna be the logger. If I do this right now, it's gonna fail because there is no existing value before. However, if I have, for example, provider, let's say I had the do nothing logger provided as a provider previously. Right now I can use use existing do nothing logger. In this case it will work, and it wouldn't create two providers. It will create only one provider instead of creating two. So if I do this do nothing logger and then I add another constant provider and then I do use class, this will create two providers. I don't think it doesn't fail, but there is two providers right now. two different providers in the application, so you're gonna see weird problems. So let's add now a consent provider. We can also use providers for configurations, for global configuration. So let's add a global configuration. In this case, what I'm gonna add right now is let me see, getting heroes. Let me pause the video. Okay, so let's do that in a different video because it's gonna be a little bit longer. I expect you like this video. If you have any question, don't forget to make a comment. If you like it, don't just click like button and share it so anybody can see this video. So thank you.